As an undiagnosed autistic child, I knew from a young age that I was different to my peers. I sensed that many of the other children were puzzled by my behaviour. I knew for sure that many of the adults in my life wanted me to be different. I knew this because I both sensed it and literally overheard them talking about it sometimes. So what's a young autistic child to do with this information? For many of us, we instinctively learn the art of camouflage, or as it is commonly described, masking. So I want to talk about autistic masking, what it is, how and why we do it, and is it a positive or a negative thing? In addition, I'm going to share some ideas for those of you who want to start or continue the process of unmasking. So, what is autistic masking? Masking is performing social behaviour that is generally more neurotypical, like making eye contact or engaging in small talk, and hiding behaviours that might not be considered socially acceptable, such as stimming or reacting to sensory input. Everyone, autistic or not, masks sometimes. A non-autistic person might want to project a certain image, say during a job interview or a first date. But for autistic people, masking is something that we might feel we need to do near constantly in order to fit in with work colleagues, friends, and in some cases even to fit in with our families. Autistic masking can be more than just pretending or hiding. It can be the process of adding layer upon layer upon layer of pretense until we don't even know who we are underneath the mask anymore. It can be hiding behaviours that we need to stay well in order to make other people feel comfortable. It can be imitating other people from real life, television, films, the internet, because they seem to be succeeding socially. It can be looking in the mirror and not knowing who the person looking back is, wondering how to find yourself again and not knowing whether if you do, the people around you are going to accept you. So why and how do autistic people mask? Autistic people mask because they want to make friends and form connections with people, and they feel that masking might help. They might mask at school or work so that they can just get on with their work and not be treated any differently. We mask in order to succeed, to get jobs, to get promotions, to get opportunities, to not be overlooked because of our differences. In some cases we mask because we've been encouraged or forced to by others. There is a therapy for autistic children which rewards neurotypical behaviours and punishes autistic behaviours. We might have been asked to sit on our hands to prevent them flapping, or to act differently so that we fit in. I remember at school a teacher told me that I had brought emotional and physical bullying upon myself because I insisted on acting strangely. He suggested that to prevent the bullying, I might want to try acting a little bit more normally. We learn little tricks to hide our autism, like if you look someone directly between the eyes, it looks like you're making eye contact. We suppress our stims, sometimes replacing them with more socially acceptable stims, like twiddling with a ring on a finger, playing with a pen, or chewing gum. We practice pulling faces in the mirror in order to be able to emulate the reactions that people expect from us. We rehearse conversations and pre-prepare topics ahead of social events, and we learn socially acceptable responses to small talk. We accept hugs and handshakes even when they feel uncomfortable or unpleasant for us. We don't talk about our special interests because experience has taught us that people find our intensity and passion for them strange. We learn to present an acceptable, socially appropriate persona to the world, with the sole purpose of appearing normal and not making neurotypical people uncomfortable. For some of us, even with all this constant effort, we still stand out. We still don't fit in. We go away and analyse our interactions, looking for the moment where we gave ourselves away and the reaction that received. So, is autistic masking a good thing? When I was diagnosed with autism over 6 years ago now, I'd never heard of autistic masking. I thought that the adjustments that I had attempted to make throughout my life to fit in were necessary and helpful. I saw my goal for the future as a newly diagnosed autistic adult to be being aware of the ways in which my autism affected me and then squashing or hiding those behaviours which I at the time considered mistakes. I was wrong. Over the following years, as I learnt more about masking and the impact it was having on me, I discovered I had a new and better goal: to find a way to live more authentically. That is, to live a life that suits my neurology, to be able to access my instincts and to be myself. To be a proud autistic woman who knows that her way of being is different but not wrong. Side note, self-help guides often advise the reader to be themselves, and they don't come with a prefix that says, unless you're autistic. Neurodiverse and neurotypical alike will be happier and more satisfied with their lives if they're able to be themselves without fear of rejection or judgment. So how does masking negatively affect autistic people? Masking is draining, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Ultimately, long-term masking can lead to autistic burnout, which causes mental poor health and loss of functioning. If we are internalising our experiences and hiding our autism, it makes it much harder to access diagnosis and appropriate support. We may feel like we don't have genuine relationships and connections because they're based on our masked persona and not our true selves. This can cause a feeling of loneliness, even if we're surrounded by people. We can feel like we have lost our true identity under layers and layers of masking. We could accept situations and behaviours that are not good for us in order to fit in, and because we've become so accustomed to putting other people's needs first, this leaves us vulnerable. Masking can cause sensory and emotional overload because of the effort required to sustain it. Masking is bad for our self-esteem. When we feel that who we are isn't good enough, how can we love and care for ourselves? This could impact our mental health. So, masking is not good for autistic people. Side note, we might want to use the neurotypical approach of modifying our behaviour to fit into certain situations, but that's different. The deep, layered, constant autistic mask is not good for us physically or mentally. So how can I start to unmask and find my true self after all these years of masking? These are my ideas for working on this goal. As I share them, I hope for a time when autistic children never need to learn to mask, where being autistic is recognised, accepted and respected, where videos like this are no longer needed. But since we don't yet live in the world I dream of, there are still many autistic people masking. If, like me, you are one of them and you're feeling like it's negatively impacting your well-being, here are some ideas for starting the process of unmasking. Some steps towards living more authentically as an autistic person. Unmasking is a process which can take effort and time. To begin to unmask, you need to get to know you. Who are you underneath all the layers of neurotypical conformity? What do you need to be well and happy? This is no small and easy task. It's one that I approach with research and trial and error. I'd like to start by talking about how that process has worked for me over the last 6 years, since I was diagnosed. The first thing I did was made a list of my genuine likes and dislikes. Pre-diagnosis, I had gone along with all the usual neurotypical pursuits of a woman of my age. Shopping trips, spa days, meeting for coffee. I did what I did to fit in, and my aim was to hide my differences. I dressed how I thought people expected me to dress, and I expected to be able to manage life the same way as my neurotypical peers, without accommodations or support. Then I berated myself for not coping with the sensory overload of the shopping trips, or for the moments where my attempts at neurotypical socialising at coffee mornings were not well received. So I made a list of the activities that I genuinely enjoyed at that time. Then, over the following years, I allowed myself to spend my free time doing the things that I enjoy. During this time, I found new hobbies to add to my list. I started to shape my external image to what appealed to me both visually and met my sensory needs. I may not fit in, but getting dressed in the morning brings me real joy and doesn't cause me sensory overload. During this time, I tackled the question, who am I? But not the question, what do I need to be well? I also found I started spending more time with the people who I felt like I could be myself around, those people who I could act more instinctively without fear of judgment. I was still filled with internalised ableism, not respecting my body or my mind, expecting myself to be able to cope without any accommodations and then beating myself up when I didn't. Then my body and mind just started refusing to cooperate. I could no longer just push through sensory overload or deal with loads of social or other demands without negative physical and mental consequences. So I began the next stage of the process of unmasking. What do I need to be open about in order to be healthy? This included my need to stim regularly, the fact that I need support for certain aspects of my life, that I need downtime after social demands. And with this knowledge, I started advocating for myself rather than forcing myself through tasks and situations, and then dealing with a negative impact on my health as if that's just part of the deal. Some examples of my self-advocacy include insisting on video consultations rather than phone calls with my medical specialist during this pandemic because I need to see a face to be able to process verbal information. Saying no to demands that would force me to deal with overload, like large groups or shopping without support or long social demands. Asking for and accessing support when needed. So, to summarise my experiences into some takeaway actions for you guys, here are my 5 top tips for starting or continuing the process of unmasking. 1. Make a list of your likes, clothing, activities, hobbies. Only include the things that you genuinely enjoy. Number 2, examine your external. Are you dressing for yourself or for other people's expectations? Adapt your wardrobe to both accommodate your visual desires and your sensory needs. Number 3, figure out your needs. What do you need to stay well? Is it time alone? Regular stimming? Help dealing with shopping? You could make a list. I love lists. Even if you can't accommodate them all, you will understand yourself better. Number 4, start visually unmasking in small steps. Small steps around trusted people. Number 5, be kind to yourself. Recognise that unmasking is a long-term goal and celebrate even the tiniest steps you make towards living more authentically. Do not beat yourself up for sometimes feeling you need to hide behind the mask or for not always meeting your goals in this area. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please hit the like button. I'm a disabled content creator and I make videos every week, so if you liked what you watched today, please consider subscribing to my channel. As always, thanks to the members of my YouTube club, the Purple People, for their support. Click the join button on my channel for more information about that. Bye for now!